do a rolling start. So welcome to Proyecto Podcast, the official podcast of the Land Builders Association and a companion to Proyecto Magazine. My name is Gus Cabrera. I'm the president of the Land Builders Association, and today's guest is proof that we're doing something right with this podcast. He is someone who's not only a corporate leader and a strong partner of the LBA, but also a community leader. So with us today is Tom McMahon, the president and general manager of Milner. Welcome, Tom.
Gus, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. I was excited when I got the invitation, heard what you were doing, and it's an honor to be a part of it.
Well, you give us credibility, so I appreciate you making the time to be here, and look forward to talking to you. You're a very interesting guy. I always enjoy our conversations. I always feel that I have to be prepared when I talk to you because you always have these elevated conversations, and I think you bring a lot of not only a strong corporate background, but also you're very active in the community. And before we end, if you don't mind, I really want to touch on your earlier days when you were part of the military and part of the Navy. It's really an interesting and very a background that I respect tremendously. So,
well, I'd love to talk about the Navy.
Absolutely. So, and we will. So, Milner has been in business since 1987.
1987 would actually go back to the 1930s.
Oh, wow.
We were originally Lanier.
Okay.
And the Lanier family, and we started in the Tennessee mountains. Mr. Milner's Mr. Milner is the name, is under his name, and he is the founder of the company that really transitioned from Lanier to Milner in 1997. But his grandfather and two uncles founded the business in the Tennessee mountains selling dictation equipment for the Thomas Edison Company.
That's amazing.
It's a fantastic American success story, and this is during the Depression, and these guys got together and started becoming a dealer for dictation and pegboard accounting systems. That's so amazing. You got to go back and Google what pegboard accounting system is.
Sliding board, or what's the sliding rule accounting?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And going back, way before my time, and they founded the company. But World War II came around, and the material that goes into making these dictation equipment, tin, copper, the metal that was all part of it, was deemed essential for the war effort, and so they basically got shut down. So these three brothers, too old to fight, too young to retire, and no money, said, what can we do? And they had a loose affiliation with some relatives that, were seamstresses, etc. And they saw an advertisement in the newspaper that the country needed Army uniforms at the start of World War II. So they were like, well, we're out of business here. Why don't we try to fill out this bid? They didn't have, there was a debate about, what do we know about the garment business? We know nothing about it. And they were, well, we're entrepreneurs. Let's give it a shot. Let's see. So lo and behold, they actually were one of the winners of the contract. And so we really started our career and our business in the garment industry, selling and making uniforms for the United States Army. That business today is Oxford Industries, which owns Tommy Bahama.
Oh, wow.
That's one of the lines. It's one of the largest private label manufacturers of men's and women's clothing out there. World War II was over. They decided to stay in that business, but one of the brothers, Hicks, said, you know what? There was some technology invented in World War II. The copiers started getting going. Dictation equipment was coming back in vogue. And so they reconstituted the business technology business, which was very low-tech by today's standards technology. Right. And through various iterations grew that business to become $1 billion company.
It's amazing.
And then in 1987, there was a Milner that married into the family, hence why the name transitioned. They sold off Lanier to the Harris Corporation in Melbourne, Florida, and started up Milner basically from scratch with a small office down here in Fort Lauderdale and our not as small, but a small office in Atlanta, Georgia. And through various iterations, we're a little over $100 million nowadays.
And you joined Milner in 1997, I read.
1997, yeah. I started off with Lanier actually in 1987, right out of college and the military, and came down here in 1997 with the hook for me was you could be a big fish in a small pond company-wise, right? And you could have had a company meeting in my car when we got started down here. Awesome. There was 4 of us. I did sales, and then we had one of the guys fixing the equipment, another person helping me in sales, a person doing delivery, and that's how we got it. We got it rolling down here.
That's amazing. Those early starts are always so interesting because I think you're all hands on deck. Whatever it takes to get the job done, that get it done kind of mentality is it's amazing to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great time.
And now I think Milner, from what I read, operates not only out of Georgia and Florida, but also in the Carolinas.
Carolinas, and our latest, so we have 5 locations in Florida, starting in Orlando, Deerfield Beach, which handles from Broward County up through Jupiter area, and then we have obviously Dade County, which are one of your members and board member, Manny Fernandez, runs our operations down here in Miami. We have operation in Sarasota, which handles down through Fort Myers and Naples, as well as Tampa. And then Atlanta, Georgia, Gainesville, Athens, the Carolinas, and then our most recent expansion is to the metropolitan New York area.
Oh, okay, so into the Northeast as well. So
yeah.
And what drove that expansion?
It was customers. We had some customers that had moved up there and they had a great relationship with us, and they said, listen, you guys are doing a great job for us here. We need the IT services. We need print. We need phone systems. We need that software development and workflow. Do you have an operation up here? Can you help us up here? And being a salesperson at heart, and where there's a customer will, there's a Milner way. And I said, absolutely, we can do that. And we got the ball rolling, and then they referred us. And next thing you know, we had nice business going on up there. And then we rolled into the pandemic,
right?
Which they got crushed up in that area.
Yeah,
we managed to steer our way through that, and now we're rock and rolling again.
Well, New York is not foreign territory to you because I think you're originally from the New York area, right?
I am. Was born in the Bronx, New York.
Okay.
Born in the Bronx, New York, but then moved up 6, 7 years old to Westchester County, to a small town called Irvington, New York, where, if you've ever heard the story, The Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow, written by
Washington Irving.
Right, Washington Irving, named after him, and it's right by the Tappan Zee Bridge and a little bit south of the Military Academy at West Point.
Just north of Yonkers.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know the area.
I know New York a little bit. I'm a big fan of that area, and I know Washington Irving. He also wrote. I think he's credited with the Knickerbocker, right? Mm-hmm. The Knickerbocker story.
Absolutely.
The Tales of the Knickerbocker.
Rip Van Winkle also.
Rip Van Winkle. Oh,
interesting. I actually grew up on Sunnyside Lane, which is depicted in the story, The Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow, and it looks probably like it did back in the early 1700s when they wrote that story. It hasn't changed a lot.
That's a charming town, I bet.
It's a great place to go up.
But kind of coming back to Milner. My original, introduction to Milner was obviously hardware office systems. And I don't know if that's the proper terminology, but copiers, printers, phone system. The LBA's phone system here at our office are provided and supported by Milner. We appreciate the great service
thank you.
You offer us. But what's interesting is beyond that, which is, I almost see it as a core competency of your business, you've migrated over to the full IT service provider. Right. And specifically, we had, not too long ago here in our LBA office, Anthony DeGrosso, along with Juan Santos and Manny Fernandez, presented to a number of LBA members about cybersecurity and the importance of that. And we're seeing more of that proliferation of attacks and cybersecurity issues across, I guess, the market across the U.S. And I wonder if you can kind of touch on what fueled that entry into that market. I'm guessing it was customer driven. And what are you seeing in that market as we kind of begin to I guess rebound from some of the stuff that's happening?
Well, it all started during the last crisis, 2008, the financial crisis, where in our industry, the print and copy business had been going through the early phases of the digital revolution, which was the analog copier to becoming a multifunctional device which was hooked up to your network. What we were running into in the early 2000s is, as we're getting started, we're hooking up these devices to people's networks, and when there was an issue, the customers would say, we need your help to hook up to your network, and then their network providers would say, well, there's a charge for that, and there was all this back and forth thing, and if there was a problem, when we were a standalone office copier business, it was pretty easy. You send a technician, you fix that. But now it's attached to the network. You needed to get a more sophisticated service response to that whole thing. And so customers were getting caught in the middle. So we're going back and forth, and you can't, it's hard to grow your business if your customers feel like they're being inconvenienced by having to go through these service gyrations and who's responsible. So 2008 hits, and I'd already been thinking of, what do we got to do to diversify? One of the things I keep that motivates me is a picture of, I think it was Fortune 1998, the cover, Kodak, America's most admired company. Right. And then within 36 months later, they're declaring bankruptcy because they missed the turn. And so I never wanted to miss that particular term, and said, as this industry changes and people are talking about the paperless office, which they were talking about that in 1987 when I got into that. What are we going to do? How are we going to diversify? And so I said, we got to get into the IT business. Now, 2008 comes along, and I'm about to go to one of our board meetings, present to our board and our CEO about the state of the business, and on CNBC is playing in the background, and the stock market is going down 10%. It's just, is there even going to be a next year? Stuff people are talking about. And I said to Mr. Milner, I think we need to diversify. And he said, what's your plan, and what ideas do you have? And we need to get into the IT business. And he said, well, what do you know about the IT business? And I said, well, I know how to spell IT, and we know. My background in the military was in electronics and some software, although outdated. We can get it going. I'm going to learn a lot about it. And so we went out and found some partners, and eventually acquired a company, got into that business. So that evolved, and prior to that, 100% of our business, or 98% of our business, was in hardware. Now it's about 74% of our business is in hardware, and the rest is migrated into software development, workflow, phone systems, both hosted and on-prem, facilities management, and then IT, and then cybersecurity is the part that is growing exponentially for us right now because of the threats that people are under. And I think we're able to provide a really good solution that is proactive in our approach to protecting our customers.
And I think that's the key, because one of the messages that Juan and Anthony drove home in their presentation was that it's not the best thing in the world to react after you've been compromised. That proactive approach where you insulate yourself or secure your network, right, against potential cyber crimes, potential hacks. It's better to be much more proactive than reactive, because you're limited as to what you can do after the fact. Certainly you can prevent by taking steps that aren't necessarily overly costly, that you can prepare to prevent an attack, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Stopping them before they get in is primary. Now, it's not a matter of if somebody's going to be attacked or even penetrated. It's when it's going to happen, and then what do you do in place? Did you have the right due diligence in place? And if we can't stop them, outside the border, if they do get in, do we isolate it very, very quickly, surround it, and then eradicate it very, very quickly? And so there are so many ways that these criminals are trying to get into people's businesses. And now with the advancement of Chat GPT that's going out, and this artificial intelligence, there are so many ways that they can try to fake out your employees. Right. And you're only as strong as your weakest link, and that could be an employee that's just not educated about it, is not aware of it, or an employee that's been recruited by the bad guys to help infect that. Oh, absolutely. That is the next challenge that we're facing, which is they will actually reach out. They'll search social media, they'll find out where you're working. They'll probably start with some of the lower level, entry level employees, and they'll say, listen, how'd you like to make a little bit of money? All you have to do is put this into the computer, or stick this thumb drive in, or go to this website, or when this email comes in, click on this. We'll take care of the rest for you.
I keep an eye on Manny Fernandez if I were you.
We'd actually have a whole security team watching just him as we go along there. So those are things you got to look out for.
Yeah, and what's interesting is one of the things that was very telling, and I wasn't aware of it, and I think Juan made a very good point, Juan Santos, is that sometimes these virus can be sleeping, for the lack of a better word, for some time. They can reside in the network well before they become active. So even if you have, for instance, in my case, my laptop, since I'm always running around, I have 2 hard drives in my laptop, a operating one and a backup one that essentially takes a snapshot of my computer every couple of days in the event that happens. But if that snapshot already includes the virus, I'm already compromised, right?
Absolutely, and that's the tactic now, because they'd come up with a challenge. The industry would come up with a solution, and part of it was just backing up every so many minutes. So they realized, well, why don't we just get in there, stay in the network, stay dormant for weeks, months, even years to get infected in there. And so when they decide to spring the ransomware on you, they already have. You can't fall back 15 minutes to a previous version. You can't even fall back a week. They're already in there. So doing penetration tests, having a third party take a look at your network. Where we're being the most helpful and the most successful is meeting with business leaders, CEOs, CFOs, financial people, and helping educate them on the questions to ask their IT professionals. Because here's typically what happens, and I, in the early stages, would be the same at their mercy, where you'd see something on the news. So-and-so was hacked, right? The Pentagon was even hacked. The CEO of Target lost his job because the air conditioning company vendor they were using was able to get into their particular network. So it sends a little shiver up your spine. You see it on the news. You talk to your significant other about it. You go into the office. You ask your head of IT or your IT manager, hey, did you see that thing on 60 Minutes or whatever? Are we good? We're good, boss. Yeah. You don't even know what to ask, and you're only as good as their particular knowledge. And so I know it's a lot easier for an IT guy to get a new job than it is for a CEO to get a new job after his business has been totally compromised and his reputation destroyed because they did not take the proper steps to protect themselves. And that's really what people are asking for. They'll be judge any of us on is, did you take the proper steps to protect your organization? We're not expecting you to be perfect, but we're expecting you to be a good steward of the resources. Now, whether that's a personal family business or whether you're with a publicly traded company, working for a nonprofit, anything in between, did you do your due diligence and were you advised the right way? And that's what we try to help people with. And
I think the misperception that some folks have is that to have a secure system would be very costly. But the alternative obviously is considerably more expensive to have to, reconfigure your network or be compromised to the point that your financial data or funds have been compromised.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. And one of the things that we're specializing in is, I guess our company mascot, we joke around, is Gumby, right? We'll be flexible. The younger people don't even know what I'm talking about when I say that, but so we want to be incredibly flexible with our clients and prospects' needs there. And so these solutions are not overly expensive. And when you look at the alternative, it could be catastrophic. I mean, there's several different statistics out there that show, what a cyber attack really will cost your business. And so the risk of not doing anything, it could put you out of business. I mean, it could literally totally put you out of business. So that's something you got to be heads up for.
And the interesting thing with Milner is because you offer a full turnkey solution, you could theoretically open up an office and have your team come in and they'll take care of not only the hardware, but the IT managed service, cloud computing. You do all that and the security component of that to the point that, once your team exits the office or does their full install, you're ready to go. You're ready to start. You don't need to. I always joke with Manny that it's the one neck to squeeze solution.
Right.
If I have a problem, if we have a problem in the LBA office, we know who to call. There's one person that kind of governs all our issues and can provide the solutions and the fixes for it.
Absolutely, and that's been one of our secrets to success too, which is we have we can handle almost all of your business technology needs there, from the print, copy, phone systems, IT, cybersecurity, workflow. One of the things that the challenge that I am putting on our team right now is, as we look to be more and more competitive in the industry and grow our business profitably, right? Mm-hmm. Size for size sake is not interesting to me anymore. It was 15, 20 years ago. Now it's how can we be more efficient and deliver better services and keep our costs down so that we can penetrate the market better, and being able to do that and come up with solutions. And then we're also, for the smaller business person that has one IT person, we can help supplement that, because again, you're only as good as the knowledge of that one person.
Right.
That's it.
Educating that one person could save a lot down the line.
Right. And we have, when you take what the costs are to go out and get that person, plus that technology, plus the software, plus the licenses, plus maintaining that to the level of technology that needs to be today, because a new software system is outdated in a matter of months, mm-hmm. where in the past it would be years, and now the technology upgrades so quickly. So we stay in front of that for our customers, and it's a very low expense, very, very competitive to what the cost would be if they weren't able to do those things.
Now Milner also has a tremendous legacy of community involvement, of working with the community, and you're one of those individuals that I respect for the amount of time you dedicate to community groups and community foundations. You're very active with the YMCA of South Florida. You're the current chair of the Board of Trustees of the YMCA, and I know that you're very active in promoting and advocating for a lot of the initiatives that the YMCA has. The YMCA of South Florida governs Broward County, Dade County, and Monroe
County
as well. Cheryl Woods, the CEO, mm-hmm. is a friend and really another community leader that's all in on the YMCA. And I wanted to kind of touch a little bit on not only what you're doing today, but your personal story. Sure. I think I read where as a young kid, 7 years old, single mom, working mm-hmm. probably as hard as she possibly could to support the family. It was really the YMCA that served as a refuge for you.
Absolutely. So, my dad passed away very suddenly when I was a young kid. I was in the 6th grade when that happened, and my dad was he was a salesperson, and we had a nice house in Westchester, and we get all the other stuff. However, he wasn't a great long-term planner, and so we went from being, living the outside to the outside world is a very affluent or nice upper middle class life, to basically I came home from school one day, and our furniture was on the front lawn.
Wow.
Where we were being evicted. So my mom had not been to work. She went and got a job selling copiers.
Oh wow!
Right, so that's kind of how we got
coming full circle.
Got in full circle into that whole thing, and but we needed a place to go, and we got set up with a YMCA of the North Tarrytown YMCA,
wow.
And that was it was one of those really old buildings that you'd picture with an old Northeastern YMCA with an above-ground swimming pool that was in the basement.
Wow!
So it was one of those where they just bricked up a corner of the thing and poured water in the whole thing. But it was a place to go, and it kept us out of trouble, and it was something that always reminded. It was in my DNA. And then through, we came out, and I moved to South Florida. In the beginning, I'm out working, trying to build a company, and then the kids would start getting involved in sports, and I would sponsor a team or coach, and so I was very lucky in the point that I could call my own shots, and I didn't miss a game, unless all three of them were at same games at the same time. But I was at everything and coaching everything. The Y got into a little bit of needed some help there with the local community, and someone asked me to be a part of the board. And I said, sure. I didn't even really know what that meant,
Right.
but
they know now.
Yeah, I know what it is now, right? And but the mission is so important to me. And I can tell you this, that my dealings with the Y, our CEO Cheryl Woods, who is somebody that I idolize. I think she's just been a great role model for me. Is she's grown this YMCA business and helped the community, and I've watched her lead and not only try to carry that ball for the YMCA, but also in our own business and how we approach things. But that was how I initially got started with the Y. We were able to partner with the YMCA this fall, where they had their beach ball gala, drive awareness around all these particular issues, and with the Y and Milner's help and several other partners, LBA members coming out and being a big part of that there, we were able to raise over $633,000 for education and swimming programs to help our youth right here. So that's what drives us every day. Mr. Milner jokes that being chairman of the board of the YMCA is my full-time gig.
Right.
President of Milner is my side hustle.
Well, I can relate. I can relate.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, exactly. You know where we're coming from in that one. But that's what drives us, and there's never a dull moment. And now, guys like us, we're at a point in our lives where now we can give back. We have the time and the gray hair and the knowledge to go, all right, I've made these mistakes. You guys don't have to make the same mistakes that I've made along the way. And so for what it's worth.
One thing that I always find fascinating about you as we begin to wrap up the podcast is, you're this mild-mannered, corporate, very polished corporate.
I got you fooled there, huh?
Corporate man. But you have an amazing military service background. You served in the U.S. Navy for 4 years. You served on the Nimitz.
That's right.
And you were part of the Black Aces, the Strike Force Squadron 41. And as I was reading I'm a bit of a military buff, so as I was reading your service tenure, I started to cross-reference some stuff that I recall, and was interesting. And I certainly don't want you to violate any top secret clearance you may have. But what's interesting is that you served on the Nimitz during the time where the Libyan conflict, where some pilots, some planes from the Libyan army or Air Force fired upon the Nimitz, and then, of course, 2 of our guys shot back, and that was a quick fight.
Splash,
and I remember, that's right, the famous headline, U.S. 2, Libya 0.
That's right, U.S. Navy 2, Libya 0.
That's it.
Muammar Gaddafi had drawn the line of death across in the Gulf of Sidra, and basically dared us to go out and cross over that line. And so we took him up on his challenge. I was aviation fire control technician, so not a pilot, but I worked on all the armament systems and the weapon systems that made them work, et cetera, et cetera. And so we crossed over the 2 planes from our squadron crossed over the line. They had 2 MiGs that came up, and it was a pretty quick fight. We even tried to keep turning away from them, et cetera, and they kept following them, and finally they looked a little too threatening to our pilots, and it was over before they knew what hit them, and went from there.
Thank you for your service. It's very admirable, and I know that your son is in the military. I think you were mentioning to me off air that he just
got out.
Just got out. So thank him for us.
Well, my pleasure.
For your service. And Tom, thank you for being here. If you don't mind, before we leave, kind of tell them, give them a summary of who you are, and Milner, how they can get a hold of you and your team.
Sure.
To address some of the stuff that we've talked about.
I'd be happy to do that. I'm Tom McMahon. I'm the president of Milner, and we are a business technology company on the East Coast. Big footprint down here in South Florida. We have a fantastic leader down here in the Miami area, Manny Fernandez. So hopefully many of you know Manny. I know he's very much committed to the LBA, as we are. Great organization to be a part of, and we're just glad that we could be here today. Gus, for everything I've watched you do over your career and what you're doing with the LBA, thank you very much. And we're just so excited to be a part of this, and I wish you the best of success with your podcast.
Tom,
here.
thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone.